Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining our live session today. My name is Larissa. I'm an event planner at Reactor, joining you from Sao Paulo, Brazil. Before we start, I have some quick housekeeping. Please take a moment to read our code of conduct. We seek to provide a respectful environment for both our audience and presenters. While we absolutely encourage engagement in the chat, we ask that you please be mindful of your commentary, remain professional and on topic. The session is being recorded and will be available to view on demand here on the Reactor YouTube channel within 48 hours. Keep an eye on the chat. We'll be dropping helpful links and checking for questions for our presenter to answer. I will now turn it over to our speaker for today, so let's welcome Rory Preddy.
Wow! Episode 3. And I've got so many things to show you today. And this is part of the Generative AI for Beginners. And it does Java, but we have the .NET JavaScript Python version ready for you. And I'm going to show you how to get through to that. So in the chat there, please fork and also star the repo. And today we're going to be looking at, let's go to the agenda, an introduction, and I've even created some nice GIFs using Grok, so it's quite a cool introduction. Then we're going to be going into when you would create apps and how and why you would use front-end models. Then we're going to go, okay, cool, back-end models. What is Foundry Local, and why does it pair so well with front-end models? And then MCP, buzzword of note, Model Context Protocol, where you would use it, and a little bit of a demo at the end. So first of all, and I did cover this on week 1, we're in a really interesting time in IT. Now, Gartner says that the hype cycle for generative AI 2025 has these little things we should focus on. Now, we should focus on generative AI-enabled applications. That's this session. We should also look at retrieval augmented generation. We covered it in the last session, session 2. And then we also want to go, okay, what about agentic AI, which we're going to cover also in this session with MCP. And I looked at that and I said, okay, what don't I understand as a seasoned professional, 25 years in IT with generative AI? And I said, one of the things that I really don't understand, and here comes Grok, really, this is Grok Imagine, the new AI, is that when I build apps, I don't really, okay, no, that's not actually Grok. So Grok created that, and then OpenAI, this is Sora actually, I remember now, Sora on a loop. I want to make it easy for people to not focus too much on adding the tools and also the technologies into your apps to be able to use generative AI easily. So I created this training, and one of the things that really is powerful in the training is using local AI. And we're going to look at 2 different local AIs in the demo. We're going to look at the first one, which is running local AI in your browser. Yeah, with actually taking, well, ideally, if you have a GPU, some of that GPU to run it. And if you don't, then a CPU. We're going to run it with our CPU. Don't worry about that. And then I'm going to show you a little bit about how to augment your system with your local AI in the browser, and then with Foundry Local in the backend. Now, this training uses GitHub models to facilitate a lot of the LLMs, and we're going to look at how we can also use models in the front end and also with Foundry Local. At the same time, we want to get on the hype train that is MCP. Sell me this pen. It has an MCP server. They've just launched today the MCP registry. It's picking up pace. It hasn't really matured just yet, though, but everyone is talking about MCP. Now, in the training, we actually have a link through to MCP for Beginners, which I'm one of the co-authors with, and I'll showcase that with that. And we're going to do a demo today where we're going to show you, and it's going to be pretty simple to see exactly what MCP is and how you can use it to create your apps. Next, I'm going to go into the front-end models. This is one of my favorite memes here. This individual has, some formal hair on the front and party in the back. And the demo that we're going to do today, it's going to bring in a hugging face model in the front, and it's going to use hugging face model with a technology that we partnered with called ONNX. And it's an open standard to say, take any model from Hugging Face and pop it into a quantized version. Basically, don't make it too complicated for CPUs or GPUs to use. And then you can go in and integrate it with other models, like here, GitHub models in the back. So formal in the front, party in the back. And the technology we're going to use is actually used by Hugging Face, run by Hugging Face. You can just go and snap that QR code there. It'll give you a lot of demos. And we're going to use the multimodal image recognition of the transformers.js. And then we're going to take that transformer.js, we're going to upload a pet. User sees the preview of what the pet description is. Then we're going to have the ONNX model there, runs in the browsers via transformers.js, gets the pet description, and then says to GitHub models, hey, go create me a pet story. Now, I was on a walk with ChatGPT, and I said to ChatGPT, give me an example of an app that everyone will want to use. And ChatGPT said to me, pets, because everyone loves their dogs and cats. And now we're going to create a pet story generator. That is the first app that we're going to demo. We have 3 apps. Next, Rory, you said, on the front end, that's great. But what about the back end? Mom, can I have AI, AI at home? Foundry Local. Now, Foundry Local is actually part of an incredible platform that we have. So Foundry Local, and it runs using the ONNX runtimes. So it basically says Mac, Linux, Windows. We have a model for you that you're going to pull from the AI Foundry catalog. There's the model management. And it can run on NPU, GPU, or CPU. And then you can use a lot of tools. You can use the OpenAI SDK, which we're going to use. And I'm also going to show you the new AI Toolkit. You also have the ability to run it via command line. Now, the novelty of this really is, well, it's pretty new, but it also tightly integrates with the AI Foundry catalog, which means a lot of the models that Microsoft creates and we stress test and we kind of put our name to is available to you. And we're going to use one that is pretty simple, 5.3.5, as part of the next example, which is Foundry Local. Now, it's pretty simple to get Foundry Local started. You just go winget and you run the command, and then you just go Foundry Local start. It'll start on a port, and you can see there, I've got Foundry model run 5.3.5 mini, and it says, you don't have a CPU, you've got a GPU. So it's going to download the model already there, GPU there. It's going to run it there. And then I can use the AI Toolkit for Visual Studio Code. Well, it's got, no, look how many installs it's already got. And then I can open up Visual Studio Code. Hey, look, it even picked up that it is running there. And I can either run it in the playground or in Agent Builder, which we're going to see a little bit later. And then I've got it there. I'm running the ONNX model there. And I say, tell me a joke. And this is running on my PC. So one is that we've got transformers.js running in the browser. And 2 is that we can use these backend processes running on the models with Foundry Local to go in there and not really use GitHub models. And I know that you love GitHub models and you love Azure Foundry, but we have the technology to actually decouple it and remove that spaghetti that I mentioned to you that makes apps very difficult to build. Now, Rory, what about, the buzzword of the day, MCP? And this is a little bit of a refresher of what is and isn't MCP. We've got all these APIs floating around. You've got an AI application, and you've got, subsets of a specific AI, an API calling web services, databases, local files, and these could be external tools and resources. And this AI doesn't need to know about all of this. They just want to know, okay, cool. I just want to say, in human language, I need something done. And an example that we've got is a calculator. So I'm going to say to the calculate this sum, and it's going to go, hey, do I have an calculator MCP tool? I don't want to use APIs. I don't want to use language servers, which is I run actually the part of how Java uses language-specific tools. I want to use MCP. And MCP standardize how AI applications interact with external systems. And you can use tools, prompts, data and resources, and sampling. So instead of APIs and also language servers, what you get is a much simpler model. So your AI application, which is your client, uses the protocol. Now, HTTP streaming is the main protocol, but we're going to use SSE, which is the old protocol. Still works, still great. And we're going to talk to our MCP server, our calculate server, and it's going to manage everything for us. And we've just launched, like I said, the MCP registry, which means you can go in and take your app and pop it worldwide to everyone and get your fame, your glory, and also a list of all of the MCP servers. This is what it looks like right now. You've got your workflow. Can you please fetch the latest stock price of AAPL and notify me via email? And it's going to go, AAPL is actually Anthropic, which is one of our partners. You're going to go to your MCP client, which might be Claude, or it might be Copilot, or even ChatGPT. And you're going to say to it, wow, okay, initiate the request to your server. Server could also be Visual Studio, and get a tool there, and then return a handshake, secure handshake, and then get the API invocation of what your downstream systems are, though. Think of it as like a REST call, except instead of just calling a REST server, you're going to let that call be managed by the AI. And the calculator service, pretty simple. You can call the MCP service without even calling AI. You can just say call, add, and then you're going to go, okay, cool, 24.5 times 17.3, and then you can call the MCP service. But you can also ask the AI, hey, calculate the sum of 24 and 5 using the calculator service or using a calculator. And it's going to return the value. Both of those are going to return the same value, though. So it really just lets you talk with your tools without you having to worry about the downstream APIs or where the tools actually exist. Now, pretty simple to do that in the AI Toolkit. You can see there, I've got the tool list there. I'm running this in Visual Studio Code. I'm using the OpenAI GPT 4.1 Nano, which allows for tool calls. You want to be able to use a LLM that uses tool calls in there. And then I go, okay, add the calculator tool list. And then what is the square root of whatever? And I want to make sure this works. So I just say use the calculator tool. You can just say calculate. And it will say, I'm going to call the calculator tool. And there's the response. That is MCP. And a lot of people go, Rory, explain MCP. It's just being able to use natural language to call tools. And that really is most of the slides I'm going to show you today, because now we're going to go into the demo. And I need to tell you again that we have done with the demo we have three different SDKs. Now, in the previous session, I introduced you to the OpenAI Java SDK. I even showed you Spring AI, and then a little bit with core generative techniques, the Azure OpenAI SDK. So go back into session 1 and 2 and have a look at how I did that. But today we're going to be looking at the OpenAI SDK, and then we're also going to be looking at the MCP SDK and the LangChain for J, but all managed by Spring AI. So you don't have to really worry about that. And the examples are in chapter 4 of practical examples. To start out, you are going to need to understand GitHub models. Now, you can use Azure for this, but we started the training really to be able to help you use it for free. So we want you to use GitHub models, and you're going to go into GitHub models, and you're going to get a token. And that token is going to allow you to use certain tiers. There you can see their low tier, and it will let you use it to an extent. And then once you're ready, you could swap over to Azure, or you could also use Foundry Local. So you're going to go in and you're going to create a token, generate a token. You're going to give it model access, add the permission to that on the token. Don't worry, I'll show you how this works. And then you're going to go into Generative AI for beginners. You're going to star fork, and then you're going to open up a code space. And then it says there 2 core. You're going to set up those the settings there, pop it into your region. And I've got a 32 core, 128 gigs of RAM because I'm just drunk with power. And then you've got your code spaces running in my browser. And we're going to do chapter 4, which is practical samples. We're going to go through the pet story generator. We're going to go through Foundry Local Demo and the MCP calculator service. Now, the only problem is Foundry Local Demo currently doesn't have a Linux install. So I'm going to run it on my PC that I'm currently running. And stay tuned, because we are in the roadmap looking at how to run and install Foundry Local to Linux distributions. So let's all take out our phones or our browsers. You want to go to https://aka.ms/gen AI Java, or snap that out there. And then you'll get to the Generative AI for Beginners Java Edition GitHub. And you can run this locally. And also, you could also go in and run this as a dev container locally. And we covered all of those options in the first session. So let's go out of here. I'm going to keep PowerPoint running. But now I'm going to go into the first thing, which I want to show you how to run that. So let's go in. So this is Generative AI for Beginners Java. And you can fork that. So I've got a fork already there. I've got a fork there. So I click on that, on the fork, and make sure the original one, you star and fork here, and then you're going to go code. I've got a code space already there, and there's my code space. Now, if I look at my code space here, check how many CPUs I got. I got change machine type. I'm running 32 cores, 128 gigs RAM, and 128 gigs of storage, though. So it's a lot. You get a nice free tier also. And then I've got everything running already here. But Rory, you said, what about my token? Now, if I go in, so my Visual Studio, sorry, my code spaces is running, and I go into my little profile here. I go into settings. Right at the bottom, I go to developer settings, personal access token, fine grade tokens, and I'm going to go generate a new token here. Use passkey, okay. And I'm going to call this week 3. And I'm going to say expire. You always want to set the expiry very short, or public repositories. And then I'm going to go add the permissions, and I'm going to go models. Okay, models is there, and I can go generate token. And you want to, once you do generate token, you're going to make sure that you go in and you copy that, which is pretty important, because you want to make sure that as soon as I leave this window, it's going to die. So I've already got a token. I've got that token there. I'm going to just delete that one there. So once you have that, you're going to go into your GitHub code space here, and you're going to go in there, and you're going to say, and you only have to do this once, export token, and set your token there, hit enter, and it's going to go in and set your token. So I can run this in GitHub code spaces pretty nicely, and it's got my access to GitHub models. So the first thing I want to show you is the pet story application. Now in pet story here, you'll see there that I'm using the, let's go into here. There's the OpenAI SDK. And I'm going to use it and I'm going to plug it into GitHub models. Now you can easily then go in and change that with Azure Foundry models or any OpenAI compatible models. And the pet store application really has two files I want to show you. So I've got some under main resources, under templates. I've got an index.html and a result.html. So if I go into index.html, let's just close that there. You'll see there, I've got a nice little form. And in the form, it just says, okay, upload a picture of your pet to get a fun story. And it goes in there and it says with one of our partners, Hugging Face, go in and find, using that CDN, and find the model there, which is Zenova Vit Patch. And it's just going to say, okay, go in and classify, use the CPU, go in and analyze the image. So I can go in and analyze the image. Now, the reason I did this is because GitHub Models does not really process or generate images well. Because image processing and everything actually takes a lot of tokens. And because it's rate tiered, you're going to experience a lot of rate limiting. So a lot of what I'm showing you here is to help you understand how to use images and also free tools without having to spend on your Azure account until you're ready. So once we have that, we're going to send it through to result.html. But to do that, I'm going to go in and have a story service. And the story service just goes, okay, core GPT 4.1 Nano, and go in and get that description of that pet and generate a story. Pretty simple here. So I'm going to run this. Now, this is running on Linux. So you want to go in, you can either run it locally, or if I go into Pet Story and I go open an integrated terminal, I'm going to make sure I'm in the right place. Okay, I'm in Pet Story. And then I want to go in and just go, remember, it's set up with Maven. Everything's set up already for you. I've set up the dev container, and I'm going to go Maven. No, I'm going to go Maven Spring Boot Run. Maven Spring Boot :run. So this is going to go in, and it's going to start up a Spring Boot server. And because it's running in a dev container, it's going to go and open. Let's see if we can open this in browser. And let's see if this works off the bat. It didn't like that. So rather, you can actually go to ports, and you'll see there that it's open a port there. And I can just click on that port, open in browser, and it's going to open the port there. It actually opened the incorrect port there, because I think it was actually opening that port there, which is Foundry Local. So I had set it up incorrectly, but it's going to open it up there. And here's my pet story generator. And I can choose the file. I want to choose a file on my desktop. Here's a pet. And I'm going to go, okay, analyze the image. But when it's going to do that, it's going to download that model from Hugging Face in the ONX format. And then it's going to go classify this image here. Loading AI model. Oh, did you see how quick that was? A beautiful Maltese dog, Maltese terrier, Maltese with distinct features, this lovely pet. And then now I can go in and generate the story and call my GitHub models in the backend. You can even change this, and we're going to see how a little bit later, to go to Foundry Local. So we're going to go generate story. Remember, I've set up everything. There we go. And there's your pet story. So a lot of the hassle around front-end models and back-end models that cost you money is now debunked. But Rory, you said Foundry Local. But we're gonna run that now with Foundry Local, because I want to close this up. Now, Foundry Local is interesting because I have to do this locally because we don't have a, let's go into, let's just close this here. We don't actually have a Linux installed just yet. We have Mac and Windows. Now, I can actually go into here, and if I wanted to install Foundry Local, I can install it just with winget install Microsoft Foundry Local. Pretty simple. I've already got it installed. I want to start it up. So I want to go Foundry model, run 3.5 mini. You can also change the port. I put in the instructions on how to change the port. And if I do this here, it's going to say, okay, if I don't have it, oh, it's got it in the cache. And there you have 3.5, or you can even do 4. And then I can say, tell me a joke. And there's, why don't scientists trust addons? Because they make everything up, even their lies. They make everything up. Okay, so now everything's running there. So if I go back to my, let's go back into here. We want to go into, there we go, into my Visual Studio Code. I need to run this locally. And you'll see there, I've got practical samples, Foundry Local, and I can see the README goes through everything I show you also. I've got OpenAI, because Foundry Local is OpenAI compliant. And also, I've got a nice little application called Foundry Local Service. And it's going to run that model there, that base URL. And I've got it also set on application.properties. So if you change the port or you change the model, you are going to have to do that. And all I have to do now on the Foundry Local, because this is running locally, I don't even have to run this command line. So I just go in there and I run. Now, what is it going to do? It's going to ask Foundry Local, which is running locally. Okay, let's just go here. Let's see what the prompt is that we're going to say here. And we want to find the prompt. And we're going to go find the prompt. There's the message, chat. Where is chat being called? I think it's from the application.java. Oh, there we go. Hello, can you tell me what model you're using? I'm actually interrogating it here. So I'm running a command line in Spring Boot, and we can just go, okay, Foundry Local, what are you running? And I'm going to go run. And now it'd say, hi, can you tell me what model you're running? Response from Foundry Local, hi, I'm fine, AI model created by Microsoft. Now, with that, with Foundry Local, and we'll see also how to do this with MCP, you can go into your AI Toolkit. So install the extension AI Toolkit. And let's just close that off here. And you can go into your playground. Now remember, Foundry Local can be accessed also inside Visual Studio Code. We built Foundry Local into the AI Toolkit. So if I go into Playground here, if I minimize that a little bit there, I want to make that a little bit smaller. Let me close that off there. I can see that it's already picked it up there, and it's embedded it there. Now you'll notice something interesting, that it's actually changed the port a little bit. It already picked up, hey, listen, you're running it somewhere else. I'm going to run another instance there, and I've already downloaded the 5.3 mini, and I can just click on that, and I can go load in Playground, and I can go tell me a joke. But the most incredible thing is that I'm going to show you. Let's go. There we go. Tell me a joke. Why did the scarecrow become a successful comedian? Because whenever the crows would come steal his corn, he would say, "Crowd, please. Crowed, please. I've got a joke worth your time." Now watch this. View code, OpenAI SDK, and it will generate the Java, C#, JavaScript, Python code for you. And you can take this code, it even tells you the dependency you need, and it will go in there, and now you can actually run all of this exactly like I just showed you with that sample, but you can generate it in all of those languages. This blew me away. This is so incredible that Microsoft did that it actually generates your code. Now, Rory, what about MCP? Can this call MCP also? Let's first go in. So let's not save that and close the playground. Let's go back into our there we go, story service. Are you going to run MCP in the browser? Yeah, I'm going to run it in the browser. So I've got my calculator service here. And my calculator service is going to use Spring AI. Now in Spring AI, it's also going to use LangChain and OpenAI. And all of those are actually going to be imported when I use Spring AI because it's using a BOM, which is a massive, massive, massive set of libraries. And in my calculator service, it's a pretty simple service here. I'm just going to go in there and I'm going to say, I'm going to create a tools, and here's the tool that you just need to do, add two numbers together. And I'm going to have imported the dependencies, the MCP dependencies, and that's really what MCP is. You've got add two numbers together. It's a tool. Notice that I'm not using AI. There's no mention of AI. It's just add two numbers together. It's up to the AI to know how to call the tool. Whoa. But okay, Rory, so how do I test this? We have some test services here. The first one isn't using AI. It's using Anthropic's Model Context Protocol. And it's just saying, okay, I'm going to run this and list the tools from the client initialize, and it's going to say, okay, build it here, and it's going to use localhost. So if you see here, it's going to go base URL, it's running on localhost, and then go in and call the tools, but do it new tool call request, kind of like an old school one there, add. So I need my MCP server application running, and I'm going to run it here. And I want to run this command line. So we're going to go open an integrated terminal. And I'm going to now go into, let's go MCP. Make sure I'm in the right command directory. I'm in server. I think I actually need to go up one. There we go. I'm in the right one here. Now I'm going to run the server. I'm going to say, hey, no, I want to run the server. Sorry, 1 second. Actually just need to run that. I'm actually going to drop out of here. Let's go source. Okay. I'm actually going to just go Maven Spring. I need to run the calculator server first. Spring boot and then colon run. So I'm going to run the server first, and then I'm going to run the client. And then it's started up the, there we go. Okay, so I need to first close the pet story there. I had it still running that. We'll close the other one there. Let's go back into that and run it again. Make sure your ports, it doesn't get a conflict there. And there, it's running. And it's saying, okay, everything's running. Your MCP tools are there. Welcome to the Calculate MCP service. And now I can go in and run the client. So if I go into my calculator and I right click on that, open an integrated terminal. And remember, all of this is in the README. So really go in Fork Star and go through part 4. And now I can go there, Maven test. And this is the this is the LangChain client. I want to do the other one, which is the SDK client. So let's go run that there. And we want to go client.sdk, typing live on air, SDK client.java. And there, see how quick that is. It doesn't use AI. It's calculate the square root, the remainder, all of those things there. 5 plus 3 equals to 8. But I want this with the LangChain client. So if I look at the LangChain client, look at the difference. It's just not A plus B. It just says there, I use GitHub models. I get GPT-4o mini, and then create the MCP hook, and then go in and say, calculate the sum using the calculator service. No MCP, nothing but just pure English language. And I can go in there and I can type that out. Watch the difference then. I'm going to run the client. And it's going to go into that and execute and call the JSON, calculate the service. And also right at the end, it's going to say, give me the help for that. Help me understand the tool. So if I go into here, right at the end of the example, it says there, determine which tools to call. Show me the help for the calculator service. And it goes through all of that. What is the square root of 144? The square root of 144 is 12. Now, this code I generated. I actually created all of this code. I'm going to show you how I did that. I'm going to go into locally. So let's go into locally here, because I've set up everything locally. And I want to go into there. Now watch this. I've got everything set up there, but I've got something called Agent Builder on the AI Toolkit. This is very new and really powerful. So in Agent Builder there, I'm going to start up my calculator server locally. And this is the last part of the demo. I'm going to go into main Java and MCP server. I'm just going to start it up locally, make sure it's running. So my calculator server is running. Now watch this. I'm going to go into my AI Toolkit, into Agent Builder here. I'm going to set up, let's make that a little bit smaller there. There's my model. And I'm going to say, what is the square root? Quite big, use the calculator tool. But I've set up the tool as the calculator service. And it's pretty simple to do that. You just go add tool, the MCP service, which will be running in the background there, MCP server. And I've got my calculator tool there. And if I go into exactly how it was set up, I just type in localhost SSE. Now the new ones use HTTP streaming, but this is SSE. So I've got the calculator service running, everything set up. Now it means that I can actually go in, what is the square root, use the calculator service. I can run this. This is running locally, but you can also run it with, in your dev container. And then I've got the response. Now, this is going to blow your mind. You can view the code. And you can go the Azure AI Inference SDK, the Azure AI SDK, or the Azure AI Agents SDK. You can go in and create an agent with MCP, and it'll generate all the code for you. So let's go in and click on the Azure AI SDK, because that can do it in Java. The other one does it in Python. I'm going to do it in Java there, and it generates and shows you how to use the model context protocol. And this is how I actually created the code from scratch, though. It's going to say you need a GitHub token. This is the model you need. And then it's going to go in and create an MCP client, connect your SSE server. We've shown you a lot today. And this really, hopefully, and definitely has removed that kind of spaghetti from how you build applications. I've shown you how to use an application on the front end and inject with ONX, with Hugging Face, one of our partners. I've also showed you, let's go back into there, and let's go there, and let's go from scratch there, from current slide. Display settings, swap that presenter view. And we want to make that a little bit smaller so I can still kind of see what's potting here. I've showed you, that is definitely not the right presentation. Sorry, I actually think I opened up the previous presentation. Let's go back into there. Let's go back into there. There we go. We'll just make this a little bit bigger. I gave you an introduction of why this was important to me. I showed you about front-end models and how easy it is. And there's tens of thousands of front-end models you can actually use from Hugging Face with transformers.js. I showed you Foundry Local, how easy it is to just run it locally on Windows or Mac. And Linux is coming soon, and how you can test it locally. And then I showed you how to put it all together with MCP. Now, MCP can chat to all of them and also create a MCP calculator service, call that, and then you can inject Foundry Local or GitHub models, anything that can call a tool locally there, and you get that end-to-end, and it generates the code for you. Now, I want you to make sure that you've got that URL there, but I also want to introduce the Discord that I moderate there. So let's go into here from current slides, and we want to swap presenter views here. So what this Discord is, it's a place of thousands of individuals that you can go in and you can join. I'm one of the moderators. And what we just showed you with Foundry Local, we can help you and also introduce you to a few other tools and technologies on Foundry Local. So you can go to AKA, and don't worry, I'll give you the QR codes now, .ms/foundry/discord. We also have it on GitHub issues. You can go aka.ms/foundry/forum. And I'm going to give you the QR codes. So you've got discussions. I'm going to leave this on here. And then you've also got the Foundry Discord. And I look forward to chatting to you on Discord because I'm one of the moderators. You'll even see there that we've got the Gen AI. I mentioned it to you there. And I really want to take your questions right now. So I'm going to call back Larissa, and we're going to look at some of your questions.
Hi, Rory. We still haven't got any questions, so if you want to give it a minute, see if anyone sent them. Just received a few comments and even a joke.
I did 2 jokes here. Like it tried. You know, the small models, they tried, but that crow joke is just it's not the first time it's told me that. And the atom joke also. But remember, these models that we have with those jokes are quite small. They're running in your browser. You can run LLM models or image models or even audio models. And then the other one, Foundry Local, if you don't have a GPU, it's gonna be a little bit downgrade. But they're meant there to remove the fluff and the difficulty around creating that, because with the AI Toolkit, you just click on a button saying generate code, which we saw there. It generates not only your code for Foundry Local, but you saw there how it generated my MCP code for me. It was really great. Now, one thing I want to leave you with is that MCP is now becoming way more important than you think, though. So if I go into GitHub Copilot and I type in here, I've got a tool activated on MCP, configured tools, and I've got the built-in ones, but I also have something called the docs and learn. Now I can say to it, oh, I'm really battling with understanding how I can convert GitHub models to Azure Foundry. So I've got a nice little quote there. Using the Docs MCP server in 5 concise points, tell me how to convert my GitHub models to use Azure Foundry models. And I'm using GPT-5, which from today is actually out of preview. This is going to call the MCP service, the Docs MCP service, without me leaving my IDE. It's going to call the sum total of knowledge. Look at that. It's going to tell me how to actually do it. What about Azure Container Apps? And then I'm going to go, okay, in 5 constant points, how can I deploy an app to Azure Container Apps? No, Rory. Yeah, and this is MCP. Do you see the power that you can have, though, that if you have a tool, a flight booking tool, a banking tool, an insurance tool, if you have it in MCP, anyone can actually, and you can create your app with the AI toolkit, but they can use GitHub Copilot. Look at that, MCP server, to go in there and call the service. And now there's the registry that was published by Anthropic today, actually, that you can go in and say, wow, I have a tool. I have a great app store idea for MCP, and I'm going to publish it for the world. So it is a great opportunity to get in, to go in and create your tools, to use Foundry Local, to have the Hugging Face transformator.js in the front, though, and then to use MCP to go in and create tools that everyone can use. I want to thank you today. I don't think we have, someone said one question, please could you share the extension name? So this extension name here is Microsoft Docs. So let's go through it again here. If I go into extensions, I've got MCP servers locally installed, Microsoft Docs, and then I've also got installed here the AI toolkit for Visual Studio Code. Those are really you really want to install those though. So the Microsoft Docs MCP servers, and that will work with GitHub Copilot, and then the AI toolkit for Visual Studio Code. Really new, all of this cutting edge. This is changing on a daily basis, so definitely go in there and install both of those. Thank you so much. Great opportunity to share, to engage. Don't forget to fork and star the repo. Thanks, everyone. And I'm going to see you next week, which is going to be responsible AI. I'm going to teach you how to not do irresponsible things next week. We're going to go through things that, don't worry, HR says I can actually do that. And if you remember the core generative techniques here, we can go source and responsible AI. I'm going to go through deeply on how to actually go and understand the model protections, the gates here. So you don't have to worry about people. Let's go and typing in there. Let's go see this. I did get approval. Create instructions for, yeah, I'm not even going to mention that online. That write hateful stuff, violates privacy, misleading medical advice, illegal activities. I'm going to show you how to make sure you ground your application and protect it using responsible AI. I'm going to see you all next week. Thank you. You've been a great audience. Back to you, Larissa.
Thank you so much, Rory. And thank you all for joining our session today. Uh, I see a lot of thank yous here on the chat, Rory, so people are excited for the next session. And here at the Reactor, we are always looking to improve our sessions and our experience. So if you have any feedback for us, we would love to hear what you have to say. You can find the link on the screen or in the chat, and we'll see you in the next one.